On Thursday, the Senate Ethics Committee severely admonished United States Senator Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey, for actions that led to his indictment and subsequent trial. Now, you may remember, we've talked about this. He was brought up on charges of bribery and public corruption. The trial ended in a hung jury, and the Justice Department decided not to pursue further charges. Now, after the Ethics Committee took this information, they made this, some are saying maybe it was politically motivated. Let me tell you what the senator and his lawyer tweeted out. We are glad that this Ethics Committee process that began nearly 6 years ago is now finally resolved. His lawyer went on to say, more than 5 years ago, Senator Menendez acknowledged and made substantial payments for gifts. We halted further remedial action, including submitting amendments to his financial disclosure forms at the request of the Ethics Committee staff. All right, I would like to bring in his opponent, or I should say his likely opponent, the leading Republican, Bob Hugin, who you should know, former United States Marine, and the man credited with turning around the biotech giant Celgene. Bob, welcome to Chasing News. How are you?
Bill, great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
First question, do you think this severe admonishment from the Ethics Committee, does it hurt or help your potential opponent?
It's so clear. We now have bipartisan action. In Washington, it's almost impossible to get bipartisan action. You got Democrats and Republicans saying this guy not only broke Senate rules, violated the law, and he needs to be admonished, and they did that, bipartisan. So this is bad for New Jersey. It's certainly bad for him.
Does it hold any water that the jury was hung and the Justice Department in a Republican administration said, look, we just don't have enough evidence? Is it fair to use what some could construe as much politicians that wanted to cover their tails by saying something about it in a Republican-led Senate?
Yeah. Remember, this is an equally balanced team between Democrats and Republicans, have Washington's smartest lawyers, and they found he violated the law, violated Senate rules. He is now required to pay this back. And donors better be careful, because all the money that Melgen gave to him is part of the $50 million that Melgen's got to pay back to the government. So we've got to make sure he pays this money back.
All right, Bob. Appreciate you joining me tonight. All right, let's bring in the A-plus panel to break this down. I'm joined by pop culture expert Lisa Durden, back with us. Mayor of Evesham Township, Randy Brown, back with us, and Bob Bianchi, former prosecutor and now defense attorney. Okay, where do I start with this? Randy, I'm going to start with you. Here's the question.
Crazy. So, a day, a week, a month to answer.
Right? We're going to have to do this in 2 minutes. But a serious point, I certainly understand Bob's position on this. Bob Menendez has had corruption allegations following him for a good portion of his career. Finally got to a point of a trial. But I don't know, do the voters really care?
I think there's two aspects I want to hit real quickly. If we had term limits in the United States Senate and the United States Congress, we wouldn't have this issue, number one. And then secondly, I think Bob should do what a gentleman should be doing, and that is not running. He's had his time. Let's move on.
Lisa, you agree with that? I mean, this is a guy that his constituents, many will say, serves them well.
You know, politicians crack me up saying it's political when they get put on blast for doing these shady shenanigans. Well, of course, politics and the law are married in this long death to you part marriage. So just be law-abiding and have ethics.
Bob, do you think there was political motivation behind the original trial? We talked about the Taiwan deal with the F-16s. He opposed Obama. The opening up the doors to Cuba. The Iran deal. Opposed Obama on all fronts, and then boom.
Short answer to that is yes, and we predicted from a legal standpoint, from a prosecutorial standpoint, that they could not prove their case, and ultimately they would have to drop it. But I go back to the state Democratic Convention years before, when in violation of the DOJ guidelines, they dropped subpoenas on Bob Menendez regarding land and apartment deals, I believe up in North Hudson, which was an unbelievable thing to do to make a political statement. We later find out is because the Bush administration asked them to do it. So Bob Menendez has always been the focal point of what I would call suspicious prosecutorial tactics.
You got a pretty credible Republican candidate, likely nominee. Do you expect a close race even with this 900,000 vote disparity.
I think it will be a closer race than we think, but I hope that he sticks with the message of his policies rather than attacking a man who was found not guilty, and through all these investigations for all these years, no wrongdoing has been found.
One word each. Can the Republican win this race, Lisa?
When somebody calls for an investigation, don't cry politics, because if there's nothing wrong and they look, you're clean.
It's almost a
He's
joke.
dirty.
No.
His hands are dirty.
Can he win?
No.
Gotta leave it there. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here.